Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at an article from Politico. Now, this was written by its founding editor, John F. Harris. He's basically like the man who started it all. So it appears that he isn't like one of the peons that works over there that's, you know, completely Kool-Aid drinking when it comes to the left shit. And is actually able to take a step back and see the situation for what it is. And I think this is kind of like a call to the left to go, yeah, we could have fucked ourselves, you know, going to the Democrats and the deep state and the legacy media. It's kind of one of those things saying, yeah, we might have screwed ourselves. Because basically they've cracked down so hard. People are looking at the fact of what they've lost, and they're going to say, hey, we've had enough at a certain point. And the backlash, like, they're at that point, I should say, is they're at the point of where they're fed up. And the backlash they're going to be seeing down the road. And they don't necessarily realize that because they're doubling and tripling down, trying to lock this country down even longer than we've already dealt with, to watch the economy and the country itself just you know, implode. They want to see the country and our economy and the middle class, all of it just wiped out because they figure they can use that to get Trump out of office. And it's probably going to come back to bite them in the asses more than just the way that they're talking here. Harris is talking here. Anyway, the shutdown backlash is coming soon with a vengeance. See, he sees what's going on. It's possible to support the stay-at-home order and still deeply resent it. Yeah, exactly. That's another thing. Some people are going, well, you know what? I don't want to kill grandma. So they're staying home and they're complying by choice. But if you keep pushing this, people are just going to finally say they have enough. So let's see what Harris here has to say. Laughter is banned indefinitely during the pandemic by order of all but a few holdout governors on the unanimous recommendation of health experts. Yeah, so basically you got some governors that they really don't have an issue with the Wu flu in their states. So they said, you know what? It's business as usual. And they've like tried to scold these states, okay? Like CNN has done it, MSNBC has done it. The New York Times did it. Other publications have done it, saying, well, if you don't lock your state down over there where you really aren't having a problem, you're going to kill nurses in New York. That's literally like the type of arguments they were trying to make, which makes absolutely no sense. But that was the bullshit they were trying to sling to get the whole country completely locked down. So anyway, many people, however, find it challenging to abide by the rules. Challenging to abide by the rules early in the crisis when Libertarian Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky announced that he had caught the Wu flu, or more precisely, that it had caught him. Yeah, because you know what? People are like, I just want to live my lives. If there's a risk, there's a risk. You made it sound like, you know, this was something that like would kill you like real easily, and it doesn't. And even with that, people were like, you know what? I want to live my life. They had to conceal their amusement by directing laughter and potential airborne germs into bent elbows. So basically what he's saying is people were laughing at Senator Rand Paul for catching it being, you know, a libertarian. Now, he's more Republican than he is libertarian. His father, on the other hand, is a libertarian. What kind of sick person is entertained by the sickness of another person? Well, the kind of person who enjoys discovering new evidence that the political gods have a sense of humor. Just as there are famously no atheists in a foxhole, it would seem that there are a few small government libertarians in the midst of a pandemic. And what's funny is Ron Paul would have still been stuck to his principles. All right. And the funny thing is they keep trying to hold up his son Rand, who's more Republican than he is libertarian. He's a libertarian leaning Republican, but he's more Republican than he is libertarian, if you ask me, as a libertarian. They're trying to hold him up as the poster child for libertarians. and say, look, see, libertarians, when the shit hits the fan, they're not that libertarian. Look at him. He's the poster child for it. That's not how it works, but whatever. Which is funny that he does this type of attack in the beginning, because he gets into the fact that you're going to see people become more libertarian because of what happened. Which is really funny, in all honesty, that he starts out swinging at Rand Paul, who is libertarian leaning and a Republican, and thinks that that's a good idea, when he's basically saying that people are going to follow suit and we're fucked. Maybe he's just doing it, lashing out at him because of that situation. It's kind of funny, but yeah. Paul himself was out of the Senate in quarantine, so he was spared the indignity a few days later of joining a 96-0 vote of his colleagues, including many self-described fiscal conservatives, in passing a $2 trillion emergency flu recovery bill, which it is now clear is only a down payment on the eventual cost of federal efforts to protect the country from economic catastrophe and a nationwide shutdown. It's technically not nationwide because, like you just said in the beginning, you've got these states where governors said, you know what, we don't need to lock our shit down. And they still haven't, and they still don't have a problem. For the most part. So the thing is then they go, well, spare him the vote. So they try to portray it like Rand Paul took part in this, and Rand Paul wasn't there to vote. So he's basically making assumptions that Rand Paul would have voted for this. And this idea of fiscal conservatives. Fiscal conservatives are not libertarian, number one. Number two, they also understand that our country, our economy is, for all intents and purposes, built on thin air because fiat currency has absolutely nothing backing it. And unless you keep, because of the Keynesians, mind you, all right, and they're the ones directing the economies of not only this country, the economy of not only this country, but the economies of the world. All right, these Keynesians are like pump and dump shipwrecks. You got to keep pumping. You got to keep pumping the economy. You got to keep putting money into it, because if you don't do that, it's just going to shrivel up and die. Which is funny because prior to the post World War II Keynesian switch, world economies worked fine. The world economy and national economies worked fine, not being Keynesian. They expanded, they contracted, they grew as the nation and its production and consumption grew. It wasn't, you got to keep consuming and keep propping up the economy. The economy was able to stand on its own. We don't have that now. So a fiscal conservative's got a choice. He can literally watch the whole economy blow up, or he can reluctantly sign on to a $2 trillion deal that the Democrats held hostage. What choice do you think he's going to make? Or I should say they tried to hold hostage. But yeah, which choice do you think he's going to make? Prop up the economy that's good, that if it blows up, we're all fucked because it's a fiat-based economy. Or do you let it blow up and let everyone get fucked? It's not really a hard choice. I mean, it's so funny. But, this idea of, in the last sentence of this paragraph here, ideology, it seems, has been suspended. Everyone is counting on big government now. It's not the fact of counting on big government. Okay, putting money into the economy to stop it from imploding because it's based on nothing. It's thin air. There is nothing holding it up. Okay, except for, sheer willpower, okay, and thoughts of little fluffy, animals and unicorns and shit like that, and that it's always going to be, a good economy. All right. When you have that propping it up, you got to put more money into it just to keep it going. You got to feed the beast. That's not big government. Really, if you think about it, it's common fucking sense whether you want to deal with it or not. See, if the dollar was still backed on gold, we wouldn't have to worry about pumping that kind of money into the economy because it's something tangible behind it. But because there's nothing behind the dollar except consumer confidence and those other little things I mentioned, yeah, you kind of need to keep throwing more money at the problem. Anyway, now that Paul recovered, he says he felt fine and symptom-free the whole time. It is a good time to ask, are we sure that the pandemic joke will ultimately be on him? See, this is what's funny. Is this where he's coming in? And he's like, well, he's actually, after attacking Rand, going, is he the one that's actually going to be the winner, or are we going to be the winners? Because we're probably going to be the losers in this. We could be. And at least he realizes that. I mean, he might have lashed out at Rand in the beginning of this, but now he's admitting, yeah, we could be the ones that get fucked. So at least I got to give him credit for that. Harris isn't an idiot. What if the opposite is true? Far from rendering Paul's brand of politics irrelevant, it seems possible, even probable, that the wake of the Wu flu will be a powerful boost to the animating spirit of libertarianism. Leave me alone. Yeah, that's the thing. They created the perfect shitstorm environment with their fear-mongering and fear porn of where the people are now going to be like, you know what? I'm done dealing with your shit. See, the normies with September 11th, a lot of them were asleep. Okay? They didn't realize what was being taken away from them because it was being taken away in a way that they didn't even necessarily notice it, like their privacy and shit like that. But the current pandemic put it right in their faces, and it woke the normies up to what you can actually lose. And they're like, wait a minute, I like having some freedom. I like having my freedom. I like being the ability on the note of some of my freedoms to be able to do different things that the government can't say anything about, but now they're trying to say it. No, I want them out of my lives because, they're like, well, I used to be able to just go from here to here, like out on a walk or something, and now I'm being told I can't. Well, what the fuck? Why would I put up with that? And it's going to grow even more. And if they try to push this even harder, what's going to happen is the people are going to fight back even more. They're going to, say, leave me alone, louder, and they're going to push back even more. But they don't necessarily see that. Harris does, though. Among the question looming over American politics is about the nature of what promise to be multiple backlashes over different dimensions of the Wu flu crisis. Most obvious is what price President Donald Trump pays for his administration's tardiness in response to the contagion in its early stages. His response was not the way you people have tried to portray it, which is why you don't want, like with CNN and MSNBC are showing this, which people on the left generally, like in the legacy media, don't want it covered, which is why the Trump press briefings about the Wu flu, you're trying to keep the people away from him because you don't want him to be able to explain for himself because you've got this narrative that you want to push, and that doesn't exactly help you on that. So I don't think he's going to be paying like you want him to pay. But anyway, less obvious is what price supporters of activist government pay for the most astounding and disruptive intervention in everyday life of the nation since World War II. Slight problem. You try to compare what's going on now to World War II, and you did not see the type of stuff that you see here with the removal of people's freedoms. Minus the internment camps for Japanese and Italians and Germans, because they did the Italians and Germans, which never gets brought up, were put in internment camps alongside the Japanese, not literally alongside them in the camps, but in their own camps. Minus that, you didn't see free speech curtailed. The left wants to do these days on a different note. You didn't see them try to limit people's travel. You didn't see them try to do all the things that they're doing now where you can't do this, you can't do that. Oh, you can't go buy seeds. No, they encouraged people to go buy seeds. They encouraged people to grow their own gardens. They encouraged people to make sure that they were able to support themselves. And in this situation, they want to lock everything down and make it so that people have to rely on the government. Or at least the people whose lives have been completely and utterly, screwed over with their employment and everything else because of this situation. They're scared. He's scared, though. He sees what can happen. And he's scared. He's afraid that people are going to become more libertarian. They're going to move away from the big government left because they've seen what the big government is with this situation. Okay. You're going to see more people just on the other side of the false left-right paradigm moving towards more libertarian leaning as well. It's just going to become a general thing. You're actually going to see people who are non-political that don't follow the left-right paradigm and probably, if they vote, it's on name recognition or whatever else, because they go, oh, I like that person or whatever. They don't follow politics. That is if they do vote. All right. They're going to become libertarian as well because they're going to be like, I can't live my life the way I want. Fuck you. I can't go outside. Fuck you. I can't take a walk on the beach. Fuck you. I can't go and surf or swim. Fuck you. I can't go and hike in the like where I live in New Hampshire, the White Mountain National Forest. We'll give as an example. Well, fuck you. I can't do that. I can't do this other thing. Well, fuck you. That's what they're gonna be. That's what's gonna happen. And they know it, or at least he knows it. I should say. The imminent libertarian surge is not a sure thing, but is more than a hunch. Oh, it's almost a sure thing. You're going to see more people say, fuck you. In informal conversations, one hears the sentiment, even from people I know, to be fundamentally progressive and inclined to deter to whatever health officials say is responsible and necessary to mitigate the worst effects of the Wu flu. So he can hear the sentiment. So progressives are losing their progressive view of the government dictating and oppressing other people to raise up other people because they're supposedly oppressed. They're realizing that could be complete and total shit? Huh. Because that's what they're going to realize with this. Because they're going to be like, wait a minute, how is this any different? It's the government telling me what I can and can't do. Here's the government saying I can't do this because this person's supposedly oppressed. That's another thing he's afraid of. He's afraid of the fact that people are waking up to the progressive bullshit. Or I should say that progressivism is bullshit. It's good. It's good. That's awesome that it's happening. It is possible both to support the shutdown and powerfully resent it. The draconian nature of the response and the widespread perception that the widespread perception that to voice skepticism of any aspect of its necessity is outside respectable bounds. Bullshit. You can call it out and still say, you know what? Because we got this going on, I will humor you because you say that if everything's perfect, we're going to have at least 100 to 200,000 deaths. I'll at least honor you on this. I'll hear you out and I'll deal with it for a little while. But if I don't see anything showing up like that, I'm going to be less apt to do that. Just to give you a clue, which that's what happened. They said, oh, you're going to have this many deaths. They said, oh, it's got to be perfect to come down to that number. And we're not even seeing that with people not being perfect with this. Remotely close to perfect. Not even remotely close. And it's not outside of respectable bounds to voice skepticism, but whatever. The absolutist nature of the country shutdown and economic rescue package have democratic consent enacted by a bipartisan roster of governors and overwhelming votes in Congress. But it was the kind of consent achieved by warning would-be dissenters. Are you serious? There is no choice? Well, yeah, it doesn't seem like there's much of a choice here, but whatever. It was like, well, we're going by the experts, and they're saying that millions could die, so yeah, we need to do this. And now that millions aren't dying, and we're not even getting to the 200,000 or 100,000 mark, yeah. People are waking up that this might have been a overhyped up bullshit. Don't get me wrong, serious situation, but yeah, you could tell that it might have been hyped up just for political reasons. Many people concluded that for now there is nothing to do but suck it up. It won't be surprising if some of those people eventually have an intense desire to spit out. Yeah, see, they want us to keep swallowing, and they're afraid that people are going to start spitting. And when they do, they're afraid they're going to get spit in the eye. They want us to take the dick deep down our throat, and they're afraid that people are going to stop doing that. Too bad, so sad. If so, this would be entirely consistent with the history of crisis, both recent ones and more distant. Very often, after some cataclysmic external event, politics responds in ways that scramble normal divisions and create the impression, at least in this recent 96-0 vote, that familiar ideological dynamics have been suspended. Yeah, September 11th is an example of that. You had both sides voting for shit that they should have kicked back and waited, at least a day to read shit and go through it before they did. But whatever. Almost always, this is an illusion. Ideology hasn't been suspended. It has been forcibly suppressed in ways that inevitably will come roaring back, sometimes in highly toxic ways. Oh no, because his idea of toxic ways with that is he's afraid that people who enjoy their liberty and freedom, that have taken it for granted, that don't necessarily, look at the situation as this is part of their freedom, and they just live their lives, they might actually wake up to what's going on, and he doesn't like that. And they might actually become political, and not necessarily political in the false left right paradigm political, but they might become political enough to the note of where they want to make sure that the politics of the nation reflect their wanting to be free, that they're wanting to have those freedoms not infringed upon by the government, especially those that the government's not supposed to be able to go near and touch with, say, a 50-foot cattle prod. So, whatever. All right. The most vivid example in American history likely was around World War II. As the world was aflame, but the United States not yet engaged in hostilities, the country was bitterly and intensely divided over the all-consuming question of the era, intervention or isolation. Actually, not really. The overwhelming majority of the country was for isolation. It was a matter of fact. The country was overwhelmingly for it. So I don't know what to tell you there. Your example sucks. Then came Pearl Harbor, and the debate ended in an instant. Isolationism looked to be a defunct ideological force, except it wasn't in reality. The movement's essential spirit, fear of corrupt and scheming interests beyond American borders, found new and malicious expressions in McCarthyism in the late 1940s and early 50s. Whoa, see, are you a commie, Harris? Do you even know history? McCarthy actually found commies, all right? It wasn't in Hollywood. He didn't investigate Hollywood, all right? He investigated academia, the government, the military, and he found commies that were USSR agents, okay, that were assets and agents in all three. McCarthyism was a real invasion of communism, you stupid shit. Go learn history. In the modern era, two other moments of crisis produced the illusion of ideological interrupts. Recall that the votes authorizing the war in Iraq in 2002 and the bailout of banks during the financial crisis of 2008 were passed in the Senate with majority support of both parties. Both issues, Iraq and the bailout, generated fierce ideological backlash that echo to this day. Yeah, it was also done on lies and shit like that, deception and things like that to get the votes to happen, but whatever. And you leave out the fact of like the Patriot Act and stuff like that. You just go to the wars. You don't talk about the Patriot Act taking away freedoms because you don't want to associate that with people saying, you know what, my freedom's being taken away with the pandemic, and have the association made to go, hey, wait a minute, that Patriot Act sucks. Or at least the normies doing that. You don't want people doing that. We will learn over the course of 2020 what relevance these familiar ideological dynamics have to the politics of pandemic. Do you trust Trump and his impulsive, personality-driven style is the more flamboyant question? Yeah, I trust him more than I trust you people. I trust him more than I would have trusted Obama on this, because Obama took a year to declare a fucking, a state of emergency for a pandemic with the H1N1. And it was serious shit. I trust him more than I trust other people. Do you trust interventionist government, supported by nearly all governors of both parties, following the dictates of health professionals, is the more fundamental question. Well, actually, they were following the models of ACT. Wu Flu now, just replace Wu Flu with the COV, you know what? The medical, like, numbered name. And them, that's what they were following. All those models being used by governors to lock shit down were from that particular group. And right on their website, it says that they're not about accuracy. They're about causing action. So what does that tell you? Maybe they had a political agenda? Because they were all like, deep state, Democrat, Obama, fucking shitbags. But what, I should say not all, but the majority of them in that particular group. What does that tell you? Maybe shady shit's going on? The pandemic response arguably could represent liberal values at their best. You don't know what the fuck being liberal is then. That's not liberal, what you're going to say next. Government guided by scientific expertise protected vulnerable people through a noble exercise of shared sacrifice for shared benefit. No, that would be more progressive than liberal, because if you're talking liberal, like the idea of classic liberal, you're talking like, Locke type of liberalism, the French, on the note of the English Locke, but like on the French, the liberals who basically coined the modern belief, not coined it, but created the modern belief system of classic liberals. You're talking progressivism, buddy. The pandemic response arguably could represent a caricature of what critics disdain about liberalism. Or you mean progressivism. Government responding in a panicky way to headlines and hysteria ran roughshod over individual freedom and the private sector, a problem whose only remedy was even more remorseless expansion of government. Oh, so basically you just called it the way it is right there. But what? Well, let's not admit that to yourself. The fact that even tough-minded Republican governors like Larry Hogan of Maryland or Mike DeWine of Ohio ordered shutdowns to curb Wu Flu weakens the intellectual case for the second argument. But what matters politically is the emotional case, which looks to be strong. There were protesters in Ohio, Michigan, and elsewhere this week demanding faster action to lift stays-at-home orders and reopen the economy. Yeah, because people are fed up. They're sick and tired of being told that they have to stay in their homes. Well, when things are not nearly as bad as, things would be claimed, things were claimed they would be at this point, even if we did everything perfectly. These protesters surely would cite the widespread shaming of people who go to the beach instead of sheltering at home or refuse to wear masks as evidence of the scolding, sanctimonious character of the supposedly progressive mind. Yes, because see, you confuse liberalism and progressivism. They're not the same thing. You're a progressive, buddy. And you shouldn't be scolding other people like that. If they're grown adults and they want to go out and do their own thing, there's risks to living in this world. You can try to mitigate them, and it's up to you to mitigate them for yourselves as much as possible. Scolding, meanwhile, brings us back to the Rand Paul and is not a especially nasty case of Wu flu. Laughter may be forbidden in the pandemic, but finger wagging is encouraged, so long as it's done from a distance of 6 feet or more. Paul was excarcerated by many for working out at the Senate gym while awaiting his test results. He was asymptomatic, but whatever. Because it wasn't like he thought he had it. He took the test just to be safe, but you're trying to make it sound like he thought he had it. Whatever. He responded that he took a test only out of an abundance of caution on his own initiative, not because he was feeling symptoms or required by official guidelines. Maybe so, but the consensus was clear. Shame on him. No. How is that shame on him? He didn't show any symptoms. He wasn't, sick or anything like that. The only reason why he took the test was to just be safe because of a neighbor being a psychotic shitbag, Trump deranged, like lefty types fucking spurg, I guess. If I remember correctly, he was kind of a lefty spurg. But his neighbor who attacked him caused him to lose a piece of his fucking lung, and this affects lungs. So you would think, common sense wise, it would be a good idea to get a test. Just saying. But the shame game can be tricky for accusers no less than the accused. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot has drawn praise and some mockery for driving around Chicago sternly scolding people at parks and trails to go home. But then she got skewered when she personally ignored the order that haircuts are verboten, non-essential activity. Well, of course. What's good for me is not good for thee. She's a Democrat. What do you expect? Lightfoot responded that as mayor, she is the public face of this city and has to look good. She said her stylist was wearing gloves and a mask, though when they posed on social media, neither was wearing this. Well, of course, she lied. Her stylist was not wearing a mask. Her stylist was not wearing gloves. Her stylist was doing her normal fucking thing. See, she got called out for her shit, and now she's trying to run cover. See, this is another thing that he doesn't necessarily see the way that the American population is going to see. All right. They're going to look at this idea of you've got the cake eaters and you got the masses. Okay. And the cake eaters are still doing their normal shit while the rest of us are expected to be locked in our homes. And that's going to drive the libertarian ideal into people even more. Or I should say the ideals of libertarianism into them even more. Because I see that shit and they're like, that's bullshit. Screw her. The bitch gonna get her hair cut. Well, fuck her. I'm gonna get mine cut too. The controversy was making it hard, once again, to ignore the no laughing rule, but it's highlighted a serious point. The nature of the crisis and stay-at-home orders represent a collision of public policy with the intimate details of daily life. Yes, you see, that's the problem. People want to live their lives. They want to be able to go and earn money to support themselves. They want to be able to go and say, maybe out to eat. They want to go out and just live. And right now they can't do that. And it's going to get to a point where you're going to see people just say, you know what? I would rather risk getting sick and being able to live my life than live under these conditions. And they didn't anticipate that. They thought we would all just go along with this shit. Yeah, well, maybe they should have realized that the American people and other peoples around the world are going to get like this too. But they should realize that all of us are not going to comply past a certain point. We're just going to get so fed up that you're going to see a majority of us on the street doing our normal shit. And you're going to have a choice. You're either going to have to try to put us back in our homes by force, or you're just going to have to back the fuck off. That's what it's going to come down to. Even non-libertarians, for instance, might be glad to have someone like Rand Paul being heard about the proper rules if government proceeds with proposals to use mobile phone apps to track movements of people who test positive for Wu flu. even non-libertarians, for instance, might be glad to have someone like Rand Paul be heard about the proper rules if government proceeds using an app to track people. The pandemic may be one of those historical moments that rewrite ideological lines, but we can be sure it won't erase them. See, this is the thing. It used to be that something like privacy, the right to privacy, was not a left-right issue. It was not an issue at all. You had a right to privacy, and there were certain things that that the government cannot do, okay, to violate that. And basically, or like tracking them, because that's like searching them type of thing. And now the left wants it. During the Iraqi war, you had both sides, but the left, they want to get rid of the Constitution and the right to privacy and COOF camps. They want COOF camps right now and stuff. I mean, this is ridiculous. It really is. And I got to give Harris here credit. He actually has a clue. But you got to love this. He sees what's going on. He sees that this could spark a libertarian streak, and not, even down to the non-political people. It can put the streak in them of it. It's one of those things where you have to give him credit that he saw that. You really genuinely do. Anyway, I just wanted to show you this, that at least there's someone out there on the left that sees what's going on, that people are actually going to stand up to this. I think he's basically trying to use this as a call towards the left to maybe back the fuck off and loosen the reins a little bit. Because if they don't, they're going to have it bite them in the ass. But anyway, I've covered this well enough. I'm going to leave things here. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video, when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.